Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It is my pleasure to be joined by Tom Lang and you, all of you listening to the program. All right, Redemption Thursday time. We're on Twitter at JCameron Show. WTSM app may or may not work for you. I don't know. YouTube feed is up and running. Hello, YouTubers. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. All right, good day. Good day to you, sir. Good day to you, man. Got my new fridge, Tom. Got my new fridge put in today. It's the little things when you get to be my age, when you're domesticated, when you're married with 2 kids.
So what kind of fridge? Is it double wide? Is it?
It's a sorry-ass fridge. It is your basic fridge. There's nothing great about it at all. I don't care about refrigerators. I don't. There are some things I'll splurge on. You know, I like watches. I'll pay for a good-looking watch. I like my QX80 Craft Infinity. It's a nice vehicle. Not cheap, but I like to drive and nice things. So that's fine. It's worth it. It's really worth it. You should check one out at your Craft Infinity dealership here in town. I have a 80-plus inch QLED television. Obviously, I like that kind of technology. Fridges, they don't move the needle for me. They just keep stuff cold. Who gives a damn? It's a fridge. I know people that splurge got a million different kinds. You know, you can see what's in the fridge with a screen on. How about you just open the damn door? Why you got to see it? I know what's in there. Look at this. Oh, look at that. There's the butter. Boom. Close it again. No big deal.
Yeah, there are fridges with smart technology that you can see all your apps, too. In case there's a notification, you can see it on the face of the fridge.
Why? What is that about? That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Well, we're a dumb society.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So when I was looking at fridges, I saw the $3,000 fridge and I saw the $1,000 fridge. And I went, do they keep items cold? Yep, both of them. Yep. Yeah, I'll take the $1,000 fridge. That's what we're going to do there. I'm not going to buy the $3,000 fridge. Yeah, you got me, buddy. Freezer works? Yep. Refrigerator part over here works? Keeps things cold? Yep. Good. I'll take that one. There it is. So it's a sorry fridge, but it's the little things. They delivered the fridge today. I was like, all right, there we go. Got a new fridge. You know what it is? It's not even that I got the new fridge to start my day. They took the old one away. I like that they take the old one away. I don't like to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, haul-away is a big part of the deal.
Well, it's important. Haul-away is everything.
Oh, I've left some things for haul-away.
Oh, yeah.
These poor people.
Yeah.
Good luck getting that down the stairs, guys.
Yeah, have fun with that one. This thing weighs 1,000 pounds. Although the new moving equipment makes everything quite easy. They just attach it to their person. They can do it hands-free if they want. It's amazing. I really am blown away by the weight that they can carry around. It just takes 2 people and a little thing. It's amazing.
I almost cracked up laughing watching these guys move in my old townhouse. This is years ago, but I had one of the original HD TVs that was not widescreen. It was a box still. It was a 4x3. And my God, if that thing wasn't 190 pounds.
They have a glass screen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the glass screen TVs are absurd. My TV in college, it was a 32-inch television with a glass screen. Now, the thing is, those things work forever. That TV still works. It does not burn out. You can have that TV from the time you're 20 to the time you die. Now, here's the problem. A 32-inch television like you're describing weighs 1,752 pounds. It's absurd.
How dense those things are,
right?
My God. I mean, good God.
I get it. Picture's terrible, but you're like, but it's never going to die.
This would stretch HD vertically. So everybody would be a little taller, but it would be HD. This is like what people were like,
the early stages.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you remember my one that I was threatening to try to pretend to fall into and break. I couldn't get rid of it.
Did somebody take it?
Yeah, somebody took it on the street, but it got rained on. I don't know that it's working. It might be. I feel bad. I felt bad about it. My wife shamed me. She looked at me and she's like, "There's nothing wrong with that television. What do you want me to do? I can't. We're not holding on to this TV for the rest of my life. We've got I was moving in the 82-incher.
Yeah.
And I had to take the 60 and move it to the back into my bedroom, our bedroom, but anyhow, I had to move it back. She did not want that back there. She thought this is too much TV in the bedroom. What are you doing?
Is it?
It probably is.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I like it. So anyhow, it's
like 3 foot of room for a 60-inch.
It's a sizable wall. It's far enough away. You're not like it works. It's at the maximum of what you could have. But anyhow, she's like, but we're hauling off this working television, and what? Because you just can't have it sitting here any longer. It takes up too much space. What do you want me to do? So, but then we put it on the corner, and I even wrote a big note. It works. Take it. It's yours. I called around. This is how stuffy some of these charitable organizations are. I called a couple, I don't want to name them, and said, listen, I got a TV. I got a buddy with a truck, or if you've got a person that can come out and get it, I don't want anything for it. It's just yours. If you need a TV in your facility for the kiddies or the old people, I got you. No, we don't. Is it a flat screen? This woman had the nerve to ask me, is it a flat screen? I said, what do you mean, like the modern skinny flat screens, like the really good ones? Yeah, is it a flat screen? Well, it's a flat screen, but it's got the big base and everything else like the original. She goes, oh, we don't take those, sir. We just take the flat screens. I was like, okay, all right. That's what we're doing here.
Clearly, you're not in need.
That's like the homeless guy in the corner with the bucket out, and I'm a sap. I'm easily influenced. I'm throwing change to the world, but
there's a lot of that coming too, man.
So
the next few months.
I know, but you know what? Here's the deal, man. A little advice: if you're trying to pull a scam, not everybody is. Some of those guys are truly homeless, but some of those guys are pulling a scam. And you know how I judge it? That's a nice pair of shoes you're wearing there, Slick. Those look like maybe they're a month old, brand new leather. You're not homeless. I just keep it moving then.
Oh, really? Well, maybe some friendly person like you said, let's go get you some shoes.
No, I'm not buying it. No. A nice shoe. There's a guy the other day I saw out there in a brand new Nike pullover with a brand new pair of Nikes that I would wear. Like now. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Somebody said Merry Christmas, man.
Sure.
There's a bag of stuff from Garnet Gold.
Perhaps, Tom. Well, if that were true, he needs to have a better game plan because nobody's going to see that.
Right,
That's all I'm saying.
Save that for later.
You got to have a better game plan, my man. I'll get to Redemption Thursday picks in a second. Hold on. And Lee Kemper is going to join us this hour as well. Talk about Buccaneers football. We're going to do that. Where was I going with this? The TV, the refrigerator. All right. So you know what the whole thing is? The real satisfaction is not that you replace your old refrigerator with a new refrigerator and that gets done and now that's one less thing on your plate during a very busy time of year. It's that when it is finally done and they've left and you look at the refrigerator and like I said, it's just a whatever fridge. Texting your wife to say, new fridge has been delivered, installed, old one taken away, we're all good. That's the satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you did something that you know she's going to be pleased about, and you don't have to hear anything. It's all done. There's not going to be, when's the fridge coming? None of that nonsense. You're good to go. It's all done. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
That was me with the transition process of the inspections and stuff. I was like, I got it. I've organized this. I organized the movers, the cable people.
And you liked doing it, though. You liked doing it.
That's what I do behind the scenes.
Yeah,
if I had my druthers at my
are.
job, sometimes I do a bunch of stuff I don't want to do. But yes, if I could coordinate things so things time out right, that's fun, man.
Yeah.
You monitor
it. You do. I wonder how many people get that joke. We use it so frequently on the show.
Yeah, I know. Got to bring it back.
Rutgers plus 6.5 against Nebraska. I'm in. Oregon plus 3 against Southern Cal. Don't trust your Trojans. Hey, now. Ohio State minus 21 against Northwestern. I'll take the Buckeyes to stomp Northwestern, although that's a great story. LSU plus 2.5 against Ole Miss. Newfound confidence in LSU. Minnesota getting 12.5 against Wisconsin. I'm not sure Wisconsin can score 12 points. Notre Dame plus 10.5 against Clemson. Clemson? Not Clemson, but Clemson. And the reason for that is that offensive line play for Notre Dame is for real. They're going to be able to run the ball. I think they keep it close. They may win it again. I hope they do. That would be a nightmare for the ACC. Chargers over the Raiders tonight's game. You've got it right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'll take the 3.5. These are two inept teams. I think they play an inept battle down to the wire. Give me the Bills. I pick them every week. Minus 6 against the Broncos. They are the secret ATM of the league. Cleveland minus 4.5 against the Giants. That was a comeuppance last week for the Giants. They look terrible. Give me the Bucs minus 6 against the Falcons, who I think come limping into that game. So we'll see. Those are my Redemption Thursday wagers. Lee Kemper joins us next. We'll talk Buccaneers football. In fact, hang in. It ain't There's the music. Let's bring in the man, Lee Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. We're talking all things Tampa Bay Buccaneer football. Hello, Lee. How are you, brother?
Jeff, what are you saying, man?
I'm saying Bucs get a win. It wasn't always pretty, kind of frustrating. They're a weird team to try to get a handle on. On the one hand, there are plenty of positives. There are things you can point to that excite you about the possibilities in the postseason. On the other hand, our legendary quarterback continues to miss wide-open receivers by 15 yards inexplicably. So, there's the good and the bad. I know that Arians got a little sensitive when he thought that people were being critical of Tom Brady. You never really get a feel for Arians when it comes to this stuff. Tom plays a good game, and then he'll rip him, and then he plays an average game, and then he defends him. So I never really know what to expect from there. But what we do see is some inconsistencies from Tom, and you just don't expect that from the GOAT, and I think that's what leads to the frustration.
Yeah, I don't know where Arians was coming from yesterday when he went on the offensive in defending Brady. I don't know if anybody's ripping Brady for being a horrible quarterback. I think what they're nicking him for is, he's inconsistent a little bit and his slow starts. And I guess the Bucs are getting a little bit upset with me because I keep harping about their terrible first quarter start. The last 6 games, they've had a grand total of 1 touchdown. Well, that's not going to cut it in the playoffs unless your defense is playing lights out. That's not going to cut it. So I think it's fair to assume that this is what the Bucs are. 6 weeks in a row that they've done this, and we're in the middle of December. They've got 3 games left in the regular season. So I don't really expect the Bucs to flip the switch and change that. I don't think that's going to happen. And the best excuse I've heard about Brady, I don't know if excuse is the right word, for why he's missing some just really, really wide open can of corn throws early in the game, is that it just takes him longer to warm up. Now, obviously, you would say, well, start warming up earlier. You can't always do that on the road, and unfortunately, the Bucs will be playing on the road in the playoffs. Hopefully, they get there. I can't see them not at the present time. But once he gets past the first quarter, he's not bad. And I'm as guilty as the next person. I have to keep reminding myself we're sort of expecting, because we're fans, we're sort of expecting 33-year-old Tom Brady to be out there when he's actually 43. And I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that his skills may have eroded a little bit at 43 than what they have been. That's fair. But it is a concern he's missed those wide-open throws. But you know what? When he makes a beautiful throw like he did to Scotty Miller to get the offense going, it's easy to forget those bad throws.
Yeah, I'm certainly not asserting that Tom Brady has played poorly. I'm only noting that I don't ever recall him missing this many wide-open throws when he was in New England, not even last year with that sorry-ass offense that they had. So it's a precipitous drop-off is what that is, if in fact it is eroding skills, because you can't blow opportunities to sustain drives with a defense that's fairly porous and that has a hard time playing consistent. When you have a chance to score points and sustain drives and keep your defense off the field, you're going to have to do that against good teams, against really good teams. And so when you brought Tom Brady in, sure, you were taking a chance that drop-off wouldn't hit hard because, after all, you decided to forsake the future by going with a known commodity in order to do what? Win a Super Bowl. This whole experiment's about winning a Super Bowl. So I think it's fair to look at it through that lens to say, where are we at in relation to being a team that could win the Super Bowl? That's why you brought Tom Brady in. And if you're missing Gronk by 10 yards and he's wide open, and Godwin by 10 yards and he's wide open, and Jones when he's wide open, that will come back to bite you against better teams in the playoffs. And nobody's going to want to hear, well, he's just old and it's tough for him to get warmed up.
Well, 2 things. You're right, by the way. Marcus Spears, ESPN, I think put it perfectly. He said basically what you said, only much more passionately yesterday. He's like, you didn't bring Brady in to wait an entire year for him to get comfortable and to make a Super Bowl run in 2021. You did it now. He's 43. And I love what Spears said. He challenged the Bucs. If I'm wrong, someone from the Bucs call me up and say, you did this to prepare for 2021. I'll confess on the air that I was wrong. Well, he's not wrong. He's absolutely right. That's number one. Number two is with Brady. Obviously, you did it for this year. And, 44, we don't even know if he's going to be on the team next year. We don't even know if he's going to retire. So the point, this is overlooked, I think, a little bit. The Bucs were coming off a bye. Now, the first thing I thought of watching that game, and they didn't even get a first down in the first quarter. I think they had, 5 snaps in the first quarter? I'm thinking to myself, this defense is going to be cashed before halftime. It's middle of December. They can't get off the field. These guys are going to be shot. Then I'm like, well, it's a good thing they're coming off a bye, and they had a week of rest. What would have happened if they were coming off, like most teams, they were in the middle of the grind, the December grind, and how shot the defense may have been in the fourth quarter had they not had that week off. And, by the way, they were fortunate that the Vikings had a kicker that went full-blown Roberto Aguayo on them.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to watch as somebody who has watched in horror as Matt Gay and Roberto Aguayo cost the Buccaneers football game after football game after football game. Eventually, that got pegged on Jameis, but there were a lot of games where if you had just connected on a kick late in the fourth quarter, late in the third quarter, you would have put the game out of reach, but the Bucs could never make those kicks. And now watching
Absolutely.
Minnesota go through that horror and now believing in Ryan Suckup to go out and make those kicks, you feel very, very good about things in that regard. I'm with you. It was beautiful. By the way, let me ask you this.
The horror. I like that, the horror.
It was the horror, yeah. I have to ask you the scuttle, if you will, since it's Scuttle Bucks, on Leonard Fournette's benching. What was that about? He was a healthy scratch.
That's weird. Now, I haven't had anybody tip me off. Well, I had someone tell me something that it's not really, it's bad, but it's not ugly, like in, nothing to do with any crime or anything like that, or any nefarious attitude problem, or any ugly, nothing ugly, but it's very demeaning. What I had heard through the grapevine about someone I know that is in contact with Doug Marrone. Now, I have to qualify that. It's Doug Marrone. Maybe Marrone had an axe to grind. But I had heard through the grapevine, and this is coming from Marrone, that, I'll tell you off the recording sometime. It's like third-hand speculation. Well, if it's coming from Marrone, it's not speculation. But it's third-hand information. I'm dubious about that, and I'm also dubious if his ex-coach had something to grind. It's not very complimentary. Let's put it that way. It's not damning, but it's not very complimentary. But Arians tried to defend him in a way earlier this week. And everything he said, Arians that is, everything he said was like, whoa. He knows he's a week-to-week player. What first-round pick in his third year, I think it's his third year, what former first-round pick in his third year doesn't know from week to week if he's going to be active or not, unless there's an injury involved? That's baloney to me. And then Arians said, well, he was into practice yesterday. He was? But he's not in practice previously?
Yeah.
Arians was trying to defend him, and everything Arians said raised a red flag with me. So I don't know if the guy's just bummed out that he's not getting enough snaps. I don't know if he's already fed up with Arians, fed up with Tampa Bay, fed up with a lack of snaps. But it just screamed what Arians is saying. Screamed with a guy that can't wait for the season to be over with. That's not a good look, especially on a team that's making a playoff run, and he's trying to, bank money for next year to get a contract. Maybe that's why he's frustrated. I don't know that he is frustrated, but everything Arians said seemed to indicate there was something bubbling below the surface that's not kosher.
So would he be available if Rojo can't go this week?
He's supposed to be the number one back.
Okay.
Which is, here he is supposed to be the number one back since Rojo allegedly can't go this week. We don't know that yet. And he was inactive yesterday. He was a healthy scratch last week. So that's just weird all around. That's just weird all around. But when Arians said, he knows he's week to week, he does? Really? He's into practice? There's something going on there. I don't know what it is. And like I said, I'll tell you off the recording what I heard. I cannot confirm that. It's not derogatory, but it's not very it's not very comforting to hear, which may explain he's not getting snaps.
So I guess one other thing I want to ask you about, it does seem to me, and there are a lot of elements of this football team that I do like, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea. The inconsistencies of Brady aside, obviously they do flash the ability to score points in bunches. They had a really good plan in the red zone and on third down against Minnesota last week. The third down defense was very good. They got to the quarterback. We've been lamenting that they couldn't get to the quarterback lately. I thought that Bowles schemed it up well, and Shaq Barrett continues to come on. So there are a lot of things that I like. The aforementioned special teams unit that we trust when they're active. Every week you feel pretty good about what they're going to do. One of the things that a lot of times it's hard to put your finger on, but I do think matters to some degree, is this idea that this is a really, really healthy locker room. And I know you wrote about it on JoeBucksFan.com because of comments that were made regarding this is the best locker room I've been in, and I really mean it, was the quote that you used there. I'm kind of curious, I guess, your thoughts on this team, that locker room, and where their head is at. Is this really the big kumbaya fest that it appears to be every time a player talks about being in that locker room?
Well, the quote specifically was DeMar Dodson saying that about Denver. DeMar Dodson was in the Bucs locker room as recently as December last year.
That's right.
So that was kind of interesting. There are some, with the NFL protocols, with the COVID, we have not had access to any locker room, whether it's at one Buc place, whether it's at the stadium, whether it's on the road. We just don't have that. So I can't gauge the locker room. I can say in the past I've seen some elements, recent past, that gave me pause. That this doesn't seem right. I do know for a fact that Deshaun Jackson and Swaggy Baker
we do that, right?
Poisoned that locker room, just blew it up.
Right.
Just absolutely blew it up. They were bad eggs.
Well, and I think, Lee, real quick, that's what I was alluding to more than anything else. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have attributed that to Dotson being in Denver. Is that with those guys gone, though, the thought this year has been, and it's been repeatedly stated in various forums, whether it be Arians or other players, that, hey, man, this is a different place. It's a different vibe at One Buc Place now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know last year it was certainly a different vibe. I know some people are trying to pin Dotson's quotes on Jameis because, just look at the math. Who's not in the locker room right now? Of course, Dotson, was saying that about the Broncos locker room. I don't think Jameis was a problem in the locker room. I do think that some of the veteran players, especially on defense, were, they tired of Jameis' shtick. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was shtick. I thought it was natural, but his rah-rah stuff.
Sure.
He goes out there and throws picks, but he's still rah-rah. I think that wore on them. You see the body language of the defense after Jameis would throw a pick and how they would react to that. I don't think JPP is here if Jameis is still here. I don't think Sue is here if Jameis is still here. So I think those two guys, they didn't outwardly come out against Jameis. They were like, we're not going anywhere with Jameis. Jameis is back. I'm going to go elsewhere. I think that was their attitude. Not that they were anti-Jameis. They were tired of it. There was still an element in the locker room that up until this past year, it's always disturbed me. I can go into detail. I'll tell you off the recording. I don't want to bury a guy, and I'm not saying specifically that's a problem, but it, to me, visually looked to be an issue, and that's been there for a few years. So maybe that's what Dotson was referring to. I don't know. But I do know Swaggy Baker and Deshaun Jackson absolutely poisoned that locker room. And I know there were guys in the past that the Bucs actually got rid of, specifically because they thought they had bad attitudes.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, if they win football games, none of this will all be a moot point.
Winning is the greatest perfume.
That's right. It feels a bit like I delved into the soap opera aspect of the NFL there. I apologize to our listeners to some degree, but it is always intriguing to try to get a feel on the interpersonal relationships, and I thought at the very least this looks like a healthier group. Lee, always a pleasure, brother. You be well.
Hey, you guys too. And I don't know if we're going to record next week. If we do, great. If we don't, you guys have a Merry Christmas.
Well, same to you, but I think we will, brother. We'll do one more. Let's do
all right,
that.
Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, have a good one. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. Take care. By the way, All of this brought to you by our friends at Bill Curry Ford. A family-owned and operated dealership truly matters when you're buying a truck or a car, and that's what you get at Bill Curry Ford, Tampa's first family of Ford on Dale Mabry Highway. Much more than just amazing prices and a nationwide lifetime warranty on new and used vehicles. General Manager Sean Sullivan is ready to work with the Scuttlebucks listeners personally in any way that he can. That includes service and their body shop. So start the holiday season right with a visit to BillCurryFord.com. That's BillCurryFord.com. You can get Sean Sullivan's email there and ask him anything you want about buying or leasing a Ford truck or SUV and more. He will write you back. BillCurryFord.com. More of the Scuttlebucks in a moment. The article on warchant.com from Ira Schafel, which reads, Norvell leaving plenty of cap space for reshaping FSU roster, is about a relatively small class being signed, because the thought being obviously that you're going to hit that transfer market hardcore. And I would agree with that. I mean, I think that there's no doubt they have got to do that. The story of yesterday's signing class is more to do with throwing numbers at the problem at defensive end and believing that you got a nice mix of guys that you can beef up and move inside but have athleticism, and then guys that are just pure pass rushers. And, you know, he was asked about that, the lack of a interior specific lineman in this class, but he did kind of point to the fact that there were some guys he thinks who have the body type to move inside. And I also would say that that's something they're going to hit in the transfer market. I would think the transfer portal is finding maybe a linebacker or two, another rush in, by the way, another defensive tackle. But I want to address something. This all has to relate to, I noticed it a lot of times after the show, Tom. We both do this. We all do this, whatever job you're in. You try to think to yourself, you know, what could I do better? And we're no different. We listen to shows, go back and hear what you're doing well, what you're not. Have you developed a crutch? And it's really convenient if I'm staying here at work before I go and do the golf show or anything like that. I'll just pull up the YouTube feed. And I also look at the questions that people send, because when we're doing the show, sometimes I don't get a chance to look at that. And I noticed there's a stretch there when you and I were talking about the class yesterday in which people got the impression that I was disappointed. No, I'm a realist about this class. I think they did what they could do given the circumstances. I'm not disappointed. I don't doubt that they've got some building blocks for the future in this class. If you want to go look at what a freak looks like, go look at one of the players that Alabama signed yesterday. I don't know if you've seen this picture on the internet here of this defensive player that Alabama signed, but he looks like a WWE wrestler. I've never seen a kid who's coming out of high school look like this. I mean, this guy is, I don't know what his height and weight is, Tom, but he looks like a full-grown NFL man. He looks like a massive freakazoid. Alabama gets freakazoids. This guy's one of those. I mean, he's standing there in a football uniform from whatever high school he played at, and I thought that's a starting defensive end or middle linebacker in the NFL. That's his body type. We don't have anybody in this class that vaguely resembles that player. We were, in past years, the kind of outfit that could actually bring in a guy who looks like that. I remember the first time I saw Christian Jones. Nobody's supposed to look like that at his age. Nobody should look like, in terms of the prototypical body type for an interior lineman, nobody should look like Timmy Jernigan looked coming out of high school in Lake City, where he's just picking people up with one arm in high school and throwing them out of the way when you watch his film. I mean, he was a Warren Sapp body type at 18 years old, and he could come in and play right away. Eddie Goldman looked bizarro world big for a kid his age, right? We don't sign people like that currently. We're not in a position to be able to. So when you hear the disappointment, it's more about where we have fallen from, not what they did yesterday. What they did yesterday was all they could do given the circumstances. You had a COVID year. You had no real opportunity to connect and develop relationships for a prolonged period of time in the state. You couldn't have visitors. You couldn't begin to talk to kids to sell your dream in person. You had to do it over Zoom. You're not going to win like that. And when you're in year one and you're the third coaching staff in the last 4 years, you haven't developed long-term relationships with those kinds of players. You couldn't. You just couldn't. You were at Memphis. How could you? Clemson, Alabama, Florida, teams, universities, programs with sustained turnover, meaning lack of turnover, meaning sustained cohesiveness. When you have that kind of continuity, that's how relationships are built over time and developed, and then they get interrupted by COVID, but they already exist. You already have a working relationship with a kid. That wasn't allowed to happen here. Florida State was really never going to be able to bring in an elite class. I'm not saying there aren't kids that are going to help this football program in this class. There are. And there's some kids that, for what it's worth, I like. When I take a cursory glance at their film and I say, okay, that transfers. That translates. That works out well. Then there are some kids that are clearly going to be developmental, clearly going to take 2 and 3 years. And so when you hear us projecting, as we were jokingly doing yesterday, Tom, but I think we did it jokingly, but also as a way of noting your expectations have to remain pretty low going into next year. We were talking about 2022 is our year yesterday on the show. Well, that's partly because some of these kids, some of the twitchy guys we signed at defensive end are 205 pounds. They can't come in and dominate in year one. They're probably maybe a special teams player or two there. But you're not going to get these guys that come in when you're the 31st class in the country, at least from the high schools, that are going to come in and impact your product on the field to a large degree next season. That's going to be reserved for the grad transfers and the kids you get in the portal.
Yeah, and we'll see what caliber they are because, the best of the best in those particular realms typically will go to better programs than where Florida State is right now. So hopefully they can convince some kids to put us in a position like
Mackenzie
Miami was.
Milton was one of those kids.
Right, yeah. You need more in the trenches, and that's obviously where they're going to go hunting. And for me, it's just – listen, it's not like I'm not going to root like hell for the kids once they're here on campus and they play hard and they they work within the system and they care about playing to the standard here and to the culture. That's all well and good. And I'm going to like this year, Emmett Rice isn't going to take us to the promised land, but I'm going to root like crazy for Emmett Rice. You know why? Because he cares to be a Knoll.
He bought in.
But excuse me for not doing backflips because we got George Wilson to commit to us yesterday. I'm sorry. I'm not celebrating on signing day. I'm not going to get fired up about it. It's not necessarily Mike's fault. He made a couple of calculated risks, and COVID blew up all those risks in his face, and it sucks. So, he's not to blame. I'm just not going to get fired up about a group that's outside the top 30. Some of these kids may be part of the solution, but this isn't the Jimbo Fisher 2010 recruiting class. I'm sorry, it's not.
No, and I don't think – so people just have to understand it's all relative. I mean, this isn't a situation where we think these kids suck that they signed yesterday. I have no idea. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not. We really never have an idea until we see them in pads and see them in a college football game. But in terms of their projections and what people think of them on the whole, whose job it is to analyze these classes, you're going to be very lukewarm when you're Florida State and you sign the 31st class in the country. You're not going to be dancing in the street over that class. Right. It's not to suggest none of those kids can play.
No, but that's – yeah. I agree. You're not changing the bar. You're not lowering the bar and then getting excited about exceeding a much lower bar at Florida State. You're just not. That's not the standard here. No, not what. I'm not going to get excited for that class. Now, they may turn out to have hit 3 or 4 developmental home runs, and I hope so. I hope that one of Mike Norvell's traits, whenever he leaves here and he goes on to his next gig or retires or whatever it is, I hope one of the things we can say about Mike Norvell is, wow, he and his staff had an eye for talent the way Jimbo did. They had an eye to see kids that maybe they didn't have a lot of film out there, but they did their homework and they found some kids that they could develop into true NFL players, guys that could be drafted in the top 100 picks. But you're not going to learn that yesterday. You're not.
If you want to get excited, I think the thing you get excited about, based on the evidence you have from this season, is Rod Orr. Because Atkins developed this unit we have here, which is hodgepodge at best, and turned them into a functional mid-level ACC offensive line. He really did. In year one, he did that. So what that tells me is he's a very good teacher. He's somebody that the kids listen to, buy into, believe in, and work for. Rod Orr is different looking than the linemen we have. So if you deliver Rod Orr to Alex Atkins, I think you have a reason for optimism. He's 6'7", 290 pounds, fleet of foot, and obviously long. That's a kid that will probably help this offensive line pretty quickly. Who knows? He might play as a freshman.
Well, he's athletic. Yeah, because he's got the background of playing multiple positions and a growth spurt. I mean, that's something that you could take from even the basketball program and say, where have they had success where kids kind of outgrew their previous position? Kabengale was one. Devin Vassell, when he was recruited, was 6'3", and now he's playing for the Spurs. And Popovich is talking about how great a program Florida State basketball is.
Tweeted that the other night.
Right. Well, in this situation, yeah, you find a kid who's played multiple positions. Now he's on the offensive line, and he's an athlete. And if there is one thing that this group has already said, and I'm talking about the offensive staff, specifically Atkins, what they want in their offensive linemen is athleticism, is the ability to get from
Get
A
out
to
and
B.
move, man. They pull guards left and right.
And they pull tackles.
They do.
Yes, exactly. And that's where this kid could fit early on. So, yeah, I mean, there are exciting storylines within the framework of a 31st ranked class, but if you're looking for confetti yesterday, look somewhere else.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen on this show. But I just wanted to address it because more than one person reached out, sounding basically disappointed that we were disappointed. I don't think we ever expressed disappointment. I'm disappointed, like we all are. But when I say disappointed, I'm talking about big picture. I'm disappointed we've arrived at this spot the way that we have. It seems absurd to me and everybody else that we arrived here. Listen, we get it. It's been well documented. We've been the ones documenting this fall from grace for some time. I know that ESPN got in the fold with my friend David Hale and Andrea Adelson writing a piece that for the rest of the nation, to illuminate to the rest of the nation what occurred. But anybody who's been here, who's been paying attention to the Jeff Cameron show or following Florida State, whatever outlet you look at, we've all documented the many ways that this administration and previous coaching staffs failed this football program. That's what I'm disappointed in. I'm disappointed that, man, can you believe we're here? Okay, we're here. I got it. And actually, there is some satisfaction in going to work every day and watching the process of rebuilding take place. You get to monitor every step of the way, the good and the bad, and all of the uncertainty, which, I like to do. This is what we do. We characterize things, we evaluate things, we give an opinion on those things, and we talk about what something is or is not, where we think it's going, where we believe it is headed, good or bad. And so for my job, I like it. I get impatient like every other Noel out there watching us lose games and incapable of beating the middling teams of the ACC. That's no fun. But I'm here for the work. That's fine.
Well, and that's where it does get fun there. It's just you're not going to celebrate signing day. You got to see these kids go to work, and they've got to buy in, and then Norvell's got to turn them out the other side of the assembly line as a better version of themselves on the football field. And that's where when it's not the revenge tour yet. Right, we've got years before the revenge tour.
But I can't wait till the day comes and I turn on that mic and say, it's time for the revenge tour to get going.
But it will be fun if we can bring in, and hopefully this class has them, Hellraisers. Guys that aren't great, but they're going to play their ass off. And
good
you
football
can see
players.
the annoyed look in the opponent's eye. It's like, you're not as good as me. What are you doing? It's Vince Vaughn complaining about Rudy. We got to beat Rudy for a little while before we can be the star player.
You know, the satisfaction in watching something be built from the ground up, Coach K annoys everybody every year, and every time Duke's ever won, he'll talk about the satisfaction was in the journey, not the final result, and you roll your eyes as they're sitting there cutting down the nets because, winning the national championship was probably pretty cool.
Several times.
But I will tell you that is true because we've already done it and documented it as Jimbo rebuilt it. We saw that happen, and I did thoroughly enjoy reaching the mountaintop. That's the crescendo. That's the apex after having built this thing up, and you could see it coming. You could start to see, things are different. And they're usually marked on your calendar or your memories by significant steps forward in certain games. There'll be a game where you go, we wouldn't have won that game last year. There'll be a moment where a kid maybe represents a segment on the field that is vastly improved, and he'll make a play, and you'll say, boy, you remember when we didn't have linebackers? Now we got 5 of them. That play right there, any one of these guys can make that play. And they're doing it consistently. They're taking things away consistently because they have the personnel to do so. Those moments are really satisfactory. Now, it may only result in these incremental steps that are frustrating, agonizingly slow in the minds of many, but you win 6 games. But it's the way you win those 6 games. You're a game 6-6. When people talk about you, you don't really like to play them. They're going to make you earn it. And then you're what? You're 8-5. And people are, okay, they've got it's moving in the right direction. That's kind of what you're talking about now.
Yeah, well, the starting ground is lower than it was in the lost decade.
That's for sure.
You're coming from a 3 or 4 win place. But I can remember, man, that 2010 team will forever be one of my favorites. And I know that there have been so many great seasons that you've gotten to see with your own eyes versus me. But that 2010 team was the one that flipped. I don't even remember outside of the Virginia Tech game the losses as much as I do beating the crap out of Miami and beating the crap out of Florida that year, and how tough that team was, and how on a week-in, week-out basis they would light somebody up. They just wanted to break you in half. And it could have been Kendall Smith. It could have been Greg Reed. It could have been Rhodes. I mean, think about that corner group. You had Rhodes and Reed and Mike Harris in the slot. Remember the JUCO transfer Mike Harris? Mm-hmm. Now, Sammy Watkins did make him into a poster of sorts.
It was
at
toughie.
one point. But Mike was a very fundamentally sound player, and he had a couple of big plays in his career, and he was solid. And that secondary in the lost decade was so god-awful. Our safety play, some of the guys we'd roll out there outside of Patrick Robinson and Tony Carter, those are like the only two guys we had my entire undergrad time that were good corners. The rest of them, you're like, ugh. Well, there's another 50-yard play down the field if a quarterback is good enough to hit it. And then it changed. And you're right. That's what I'm hoping is next year is whoever's leading the defense, whatever the position coaches look like in the defense, that you've got a couple of guys you can circle. And maybe defensive end, if we get a JUCO kid in here, might be a position where you say, look, they've got options. They've got a long-term prognosis that's positive, not negative.
So just for fun, because you enjoyed it that much, and I want to remind everybody what that looked like. 2010 is when we went to Oklahoma and got killed, and I was at that game in Norman with my dad and good buddy Eric. But we began the year with Sanford. We dominated that game 59-6. But here you go. The losses, Tom, you wanted to go through those?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
47-17.
We answered them on the first drive.
Oh, we sure did. We rebounded nicely from the Oklahoma game by beating BYU. That's the Greg Reed play, 34-10, and we were actually underdogs in that game. We shut out Wake Forest 31-0. We beat Virginia 34-14. Then we took out Miami 45-17, which was very gratifying. I was there at the time Sun Life Stadium.
Oh, Mr. Alexander with the big hit against Perry Jones of Virginia. I remember that play.
Yeah. Boston College 24-19. Way too close for comfort, but we got that win.
No quarterback was healthy in that game.
That's
EJ
correct.
was unavailable. Christian Ponder had a black right elbow and throwing shoulder.
Yeah. I remember that very, very well. And then you go to losing to NC State in a brutal game at Carter Finley, 28-24. That's fumbling going in.
Ty Jones.
Yeah.
We had 3 tight ends open in the back of the end zone.
We're going to walk in. Mm-hmm. North Carolina beat us 37-35. Last-second field goal guy does the chop in front of our faces, right?
No, that was...
That's the missed kick from Hopkins.
It was like 36, 38 yards. That was T.J. Yates, I think, went for 450. He broke Werfel's record for the most in Doak Campbell Stadium history.
That hurt us. We beat Clemson 16-13. We then beat Maryland at Byrd Stadium in College Park 30-16. That's the hit from Greg Reed standing over, isn't it?
Yes, that's also the return by Nick Moody at the end that I wondered if it had moved the line for anybody.
Yeah.
Because Jimbo was like, go down, go down,
go. Yeah. Then we beat Florida 31-7. We lost to Virginia Tech in the ACC championship game when we were on roller skates, 44-33. And then we beat South Carolina. That's the another Greg Reed moment.
So Brian Stork in, I guess that would have been 2013, lining up at center after a bad snap for a 4th down punt, and they're like, dude, get off the field.
Yeah, he's wobbly, yeah.
Between that and the Christian Ponder spike into the ground against South Carolina when Lonnie Pryor's releasing into the flat for an easy touchdown in the Georgia Dome.
Another concussion for
Those are the 2 best examples I can think of where a concussion just presents itself and everybody gasps.
Yeah, hit their teammates, the refs are like, oh, no, this isn't good. I remember before the snap on the Ponder play down on the goal line thinking, he doesn't look right. He doesn't. Yeah. Something's wrong here. And then we got our hands up because it's an easy touchdown. And you're like, what the hell was that? That looked
the trainers ran out and got him right away.
Yeah. I was like, that looks like my 3-year-old attempted to throw me a pass of over 5 yards. What is that? Just falling out of your hand? Ridiculous.
It was a 4th down play, too. It was a good call.
Yeah, it was a great call. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with. number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Fine Redemption Thursday to you and yours. Hope you're well. All right, a little football on tonight here, right here. In fact, right here in this studio. 97.9 ESPN Radio. We actually have Chargers, Raiders. I know. Doesn't leap off the page. You don't go, oh, really? You do? That's fantastic. But we're running out of football, so it is fantastic.
Yeah, where were we 6 months ago? Begging for football to exist.
You're damn right. You'll like that football game tonight. You'll watch it and you'll love it.
That's right. You pipe down, you complainer.
Shut your pie hole. We're watching football tonight.
You'll get nothing and like it.
I took the Bucs and I gave the 6. Do you like that pick? You feel good about that pick?
Pretty good. Pretty good about that pick. I think you had it right earlier in the week when you said that the way the Falcons lost to the Chargers might be the death knell for the trying thing.
Could be. Cleveland minus 4.5. I'm banking on it, by the way. The Giants had their comeuppance. They got beat last week and looked bad doing it. And admittedly, Danny Dimes was hurt, and they rolled him out there, and he sucked. And so now they're going back to Colt McCoy. Problem is, 2 weeks ago when Colt McCoy played, even though they beat Seattle, it sure as hell wasn't because of him.
Rootin' tootin' Colt McCoy.
Give me Cleveland minus 4.5. Bills minus 6 against the Broncos. I'm riding that train. Bills have been really, really kind of fun to watch play the game of football right now. Their offense is difficult to stop. They've got a lot of weapons. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Kind of fun. And I did take the Chargers tonight, getting the 3.5. 2 inept teams will play poorly, and hopefully the game will just be close because neither is good enough to run away from the other. That doesn't give you a lot of hope, does it? But that's a hook, man. That's what that hook's there for. Like, okay.
So I was watching a little bit of college basketball last night to see if,
I was too.
If my eyes are tuned. Are they ready to pull the trigger on some potato chips? And in watching the flow...
Oh, you were watching. You were scouting.
You trained me well.
Yeah.
I was watching Notre Dame Duke, excuse me.
Watch Duke beat that ass is what you did.
Right. And through the first half, you got about 3-4 minutes into the second half, and you could still get Duke live at minus 5.5. And I felt like, why is that so low? That makes no damn sense.
It's an algorithm.
Right. Well, the algorithm was wrong, and I should have pulled the trigger, but I said, let's test yourself. Let's see if you're watching the game correctly, if you're seeing the game correctly.
Okay.
So I passed that test.
Yeah. And now next time you'll trust it, and it'll go south on you. See, that's the world. That's the way it works.
I'll trust the process. Even if I get that one wrong, it's okay. My eyes are starting to see it right.
By the way, update on Keontay Johnson, who, quote, unquote, is making truly encouraging progress. That is so awesome. That, and more than anything else that has happened this week, and I mean this sincerely, and I know a lot of you out there do too, you've got to feel so buoyed by that news. I mean, that was as disturbing as anything I've seen involving a Florida State game where something happens in a game. We've seen players get hurt, but this wasn't that. In the moment, it felt like you may have been watching somebody die before your eyes. And that is, especially when it's, it's always sad, but especially when it's a young person in the prime of their life, peak athletic condition. It's just, you don't expect it. It's startling. But it was also a great representation of the humanity. We get so caught up in rivalries and despising our rivalries, our rivals, and wanting to win almost more than anything. And I do. I want to beat the Gators in everything, and they want to beat us in everything, and I get all of that. But, boy, at the end of the day, you don't need these reminders. You shouldn't need these reminders. And most fans, even the most passionate of fans, don't need the reminder that a startling collapse on the court like that brings. But just in case, you got it. Everybody bonding together in that moment, recognizing this is about this young man, his life, his friends, his family, his teammates, and what you have to do in order to act accordingly and to save a life. And I'm really proud of Florida State. I'm proud of Florida. I'm proud of the doctors in that moment. You know what I thought about? I was talking to Trey Jones last night, golf coach at Florida State, dear friend of mine. If you're going to have an episode, for lack of a better term, like this, where you collapse on the court and you're facing potentially death, what better place to have it happen? I mean, if he had been in his dorm room, he's dead, Tom. If he had been just somewhere in an apartment, he's dead.
Right.
So the fact that it happened on the court, as disturbing and startling and sad and frightening as it all was, it really could not have happened in a better place, because you have doctors right there ready to act now. You have an ambulance waiting in the wings right there. You got medical care within 5 seconds of him collapsing. There is somebody there assessing and addressing the needs of this young man. And it's just, I'll be honest, I'm not a fatalist per se, but when you see that and they're not responding and they remain motionless, and then you find out, you certainly hear the rumors. It's medical stuff, so you can't get into particulars, but you hear that he flatlined twice when he was waiting in the wings before they could transport him to the hospital. Now, that's out there. A lot of people talked about that. I think that information got out there. It is scary. It is beyond scary. It's arresting. It's what I said earlier in the week. It's arresting. It takes your breath away. But to know that he received the medical attention he needed here in Tallahassee, and they were able to keep him alive, and they were able to medically induce a coma and keep him stable until he could be transported eventually to Shands, and then to find out that subsequently he was responding to simple commands. He continues to remain under medical evaluation. Florida has announced that they'll postpone their next 3 non-conference games. He is showing signs, according to Gator Athletic Director Scott Strickland, again, of encouraging progress. Now, I don't know if that young man will ever realize his dream of going to the NBA. He certainly was an NBA prospect. I don't know if he'll ever play college basketball again, but I don't really care, and I don't mean that to sound callous. I just care that they figure out what caused this. They're able to aid him in whatever ways they need to, and that he could have a life, a productive life, that he can go on to graduate and do whatever it is. Now, if he can play basketball, great. It's just really, really, really encouraging to hear that he is doing so much better.
Given the way the conversations had gone around the basketball program, programs plural, and that game, and the whispers around the Civic Center, I didn't know that we'd be here on Thursday of the following week and talking about a young man who's able to FaceTime his teammates, who's able to laugh and joke around and sit up and talk to his family members. And you're right. To thank the folks at Florida State, Scott Strickland certainly did yesterday. Mm-hmm. And there was a quote attributed to him in which he said that, we're rivals, but I can't say enough about the things that the Florida State staff did, the stadium staff, and they deserve, a real hearty thank you from everybody because, yes, they're doing their jobs, but it's a really important one to get right.
Oh, yeah. No, I just – that was I really thought, I'll be honest with you again, I'm not a fatalist. I kind of thought we may have unfortunately seen a real tragedy that young man was going to pass. It did not look good, and I don't like to make those kinds of assumptions, but I brought up to you on the Monday after this week on Monday's show that I thought back to, unfortunately, it's odd in basketball. We've seen a lot of this. I mean, Reggie Lewis at Boston collapsed and died at practice. I mentioned Hank Gathers in 1990 and remembering him collapsing right there after a dunk that was similar.
Our program alum, Michael Ojo.
Unfortunately. So, it's wild speculation on my part, but I've actually had the conversation on the air before about, I wonder what it is. Is it the oddity? Is it the preternatural size? Is there some complication that sometimes affects people that are enormous compared to the regular population? I don't know. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, and it's just speculation. It just seems like we've had too many of these in basketball, and that's why maybe I was a little fatalistic. I will, again, thank goodness that hasn't been the case. I'll note what Strickland noted here, which is that was an emotionally taxing time, is still for Keontay's family, friends, and teammates. The part of the quote I really loved is not only to illuminate that, but to say, our hope is that everybody impacted will take an opportunity to process those emotions and regroup ahead of the start of this new year. Yeah. And sometimes it's a nice counterbalance. We get caught up in a lot of stuff. All of us do. It's not that we always need the reminder. I hate that when I hear people say that all the time. This is just a great reminder of the important things. No, I already knew human life was more important than a basketball game. I already knew that somebody being able to live a fruitful life and go on and do whatever it is they dream of doing is more important than whether or not we win a rivalry game. I already knew that. I didn't need the perspective of that. But sometimes recalibrating after a moment that is arresting like this is absolutely healthy and a wise way to take a step back and kind of, okay, let's take inventory occasionally a little bit, But we'll see. We'll see how he proceeds to improve, we hope. As of right now, he is responding. He is getting better, and he is
Keep going, man. Keep going.
Yeah, that was... Wow, that was something.
I won't get tired of reading good news about that situation.
Who could? Every day lately, it's been great. It's one of the first things that populates on your Twitter feed or however you follow the programs, and we get a lot of our sports information for the day to kind of start the day. What's happened? What are the headlines there? And, it doesn't have to be a source of negativity. Sometimes Twitter or Facebook, the things that I sometimes loathe and deride on a regular basis on this show, can provide just little snippets of good news when you wake and you look at that and go, oh, look at that, more good news. And that's been the last 2 days. We've read those kinds of reports. Today was yet another encouraging sign. Just wanted to update that beyond just Redemption Thursday wagers and those conversations. Good for you. We're all rooting for Keontay Johnson. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Who's gonna go. I read from the statement, I want to start off by saying how thankful I am for Coach Norvell, Coach Atkins, and the entire Florida State staff for giving me the opportunity to play the game I love at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. This year was filled with ups and downs, but I have built so many relationships and bonds here at Florida State that are going to last a lifetime. With that being said, I'm fully committed to returning for the 2021 season. I will be a part of the turnaround that is coming to Florida State University. I'm fully committed to the climb and being a Seminole. That from Devonte Love-Taylor. You badass.
Turn down for what?
My man. Well done. Wow. One of the few bright spots on the season before he got hurt was Devonte Love-Taylor, and man, he changed that offensive line for the better. Is he an elite player? No. Was he better than almost everything else we had going for us on that offensive line? As it turned out, a resounding yes, and to find out you're going to get him back. And again, this is part of the process. It's the little things. It's the baby steps. It's the stuff we've talked about time and again. I'll elaborate on that again later on in the show. I just think that this is a big deal because it speaks to, I think, that he's getting home to some people. His message and his I think, efforts to revitalize, reshape, and shift the culture in the locker room are hitting home with important players, including veterans.
Here's the distinction I'd use here, though. This is not the message. This is the follow-through on the message. Last year, it was the message for Marvin and for Tamorian. That's what got him to come back, because they hadn't seen Mike in action. This guy bought in, came here, saw how it played out, worked under Coach Atkins, and was impressed enough, and probably got the draft grade that wasn't good enough for him to say in combination, well, I know they're going to make me better next year, so let's do the damn thing.
We've praised Atkins a lot, and I'm going to continue to do so. I feel like, on the whole, that's really the takeaway. I certainly like that we improved in the run game. I think the concepts are there offensively that you could feel encouraged about where we're headed offensively. They were lacking in a lot of areas. They had all kinds of problems with injuries at quarterback and wide receiver. The inconsistencies were maddening, but proof of concept, it would happen and it would pay off from time to time. Game to game, you could see a lot of things that didn't work were open. A lot of things that weren't succeeding consistently were schemed up to be there. So you saw that. You haven't seen it defensively. I understand that. Those are primarily where our concerns lie. But you did see it offensively. And then to get the news that you get him back is absolutely huge. So congratulations, and good for that young man.
It's like landing a grad transfer again, and you got this one, and you know what he can do. And this is a guy that is a Swiss Army knife in the offensive line. There was one game earlier this year where he played left, right tackles plus right guard. They want to slot him in guard if everybody can be healthy. And what this would do is it would set up without another addition through the JUCO ranks, and maybe we get a one or two more. But this sets up a battle at the tackle positions for Robert Scott, Darius Washington. Rod Orr comes in to compete. So those are three principal figures who could emerge as tackle prospects for us. You play DLT on the interior.
Yeah.
Now you're putting together an offensive line that might be above average in ACC play for a
Holy
year.
moly. Remember when the goal was to aspire to butt-ass average? You know, can we aspire to being something close to butt-ass average? And we thought that was maybe perhaps a bridge too far, that it was a mountain whose peak we would never reach. But you saw the improvements week to week, and we continued to note that and say, okay, they're not great, and actually they can be taken advantage of by the better teams in this league, and they will. And when you get behind the chains, your quarterback doesn't throw it well enough, and there are a lot of things that falter with this offense. But they were, I think, appreciably better than they were the year before. That much is undeniable. And they've still got a long way to go. This guy helps you bridge the gap. This guy helps you get there.
There's no doubt. And some of it was Jordan Travis making space where there wasn't any, but we were able to run the ball this season with regularity. I wouldn't say we were great at it, but we could do it. And it was functional. Where the passing game wasn't, the running game was. And it's kind of crazy when you consider it, too, because we didn't really have much for you in the passing game. After Terry got hurt initially, like, what are you defending? And yet we still could run the ball. Add this guy back into the fold, and you get even better in that regard.
Yeah, people roll their eyes. There are always slogans and mottos and things of that ilk, and this one's the climb. And, I get it. It's something for players to latch on to. A lot of times if you've been around the block, it's cliche, you roll your eyes a little bit, but it does matter. It's very militaristic, and it's something that if you invest in and you believe in and you work and grow together is something that is noticeable from afar. And so, I don't care what you call it. It's a matter of, do you believe in where the coaches are taking you? Do you believe in the overriding message? Do you believe in what they're trying to get you to work towards? And again, I like to see continued signs that is happening for that locker room, because it was a toxic place that he took over. So you've now got a few guys, I think, in place to pass it on. And that's the biggest part of this, right? You start changing and flipping culture and getting people to buy. You got to win games. Ultimately, it sours no matter what the message is. If you're not winning games, you got to get to a place where there is evidence that it's working. But it's the baby steps right now on a very long climb.
I know the athletic department is in big trouble right now, but what we've got to look at for expansion is, if Florida State's offensive line goes from what it was to something that's not bad, guess what's going to happen? Alex Atkins' name is going to come up at a lot of universities. So let's begin the planning phase of making sure that he's comfortable in his surroundings, that we do everything we can, even if it's a bump in title, associate head coach. I don't care, whatever it is, prepare, because that dude has delivered this year and then some. And so we need to make sure that he's around for the next couple of years at minimum to train an understudy. If not, outright just stick around with Mike Norvell.
Yeah, it's another year of success on the field before you start to begin hearing any sort of whispers. It's not after this year, because I think most people would look statistically and be like, well, no great shakes. But we know with our eyes, we've watched this program the last several years, so we know that, as I said before, they're appreciably better than they were. But you're right. If they actually do arrive somewhere in the neighborhood of downright good, I mean, yeah, if that happens, if people actually utter the phrase, and dare I say, wouldn't that be music?
Oh.
If they actually uttered the phrase, well, they got a chance this week. They do have a very good offensive line. Oh.
I think, right?
Goodness gracious. You'll have to use that for bumper, too, just because it's good. But, yes, that's we might get misty-eyed around here. Folks be like, it's true. They're good. I'm saying it. It's a thing. I don't think this looks real, Tom. I've done some double checking. Surely if you were following recruiting yesterday, then you saw this picture. If you were following Twitter or any of the social media platforms and just kind of going through and taking a look at, I mean, Barstool Bama tweeted this out. I saw others. There's a kid named Kendrick Blackshire, I'm not sure. I used to live off of Berkshire Manor on Ocala Road. I don't think it's still Berkshire Manor anymore, is it?
Man, I haven't been over that part of town in some time.
I love me some Berkshire Manor. I did.
What else can you call it? I mean, it's got to be something like that.
Well, no, I think they sold and a new company took over, and it's not called Berkshire Manor.
They took the
anymore.
castle down?
I think the castle's still there. The castle has to still be there. That was iconic. I loved it. I'd drive by like, the castle, I'm home. But, yeah, so I don't know if you've seen this picture, but Kendrick Blackshire is, he looks 35 years old and appears to be an enforcer of some sort. Like, I don't think that's a fair categorization, just looking at how intimidating he is. Who blocked him in high school? What poor bastard had to go up against that in high school? My God. It is insane. This man, and I say grown-ass man, does not look like anybody I've ever seen coming out of high school. You know, this is as it relates to how fitness, technology, diet, all of the science behind working out, staying in shape, fueling your body has shifted over the years. I graduated high school in 1989. I used to spend an inordinate amount of time attempting to gain weight because I played football and I was doing everything I could to get up to 220, 230 pounds. I was entering my senior year of high school. I think I weighed 180 pounds. And I spent that summer lifting weights twice a day, morning and evening. I ate anything I could get my hands on. And I eventually got to 205 pounds, I think that summer eventually. I think that's what I was when I got to Etsu. The point would be this. It took everything in my power, and we didn't know what we were doing. You just worked out incessantly, crazily. A lot of it was very static and specific to an area. You don't do that now. It's about functional strength now. It doesn't make any sense to do bicep curls, But, these are the things that you did back then. Basically, you did squats, deadlifts, cleans, bench press, things for your biceps, your military press. You do those kinds of things. Now they teach functional strength, which is great. It's very important, how you actually use your body and move your body. You strengthen your muscles that way. Well, when I got out in the world, and I say the world, Johnson City, Tennessee, and I saw where everybody else's fitness was at and where they played high school, we were all kind of the same if you were a freshman, depending on your position. If you were a lineman, obviously you were a lot bigger than me, but you would see that. When I fast forward many years later, let's see, that would have been, 10 years later. When I would monitor the freshmen coming in, when I started in the radio business and covering Florida State, in the beginning stages, and Florida State, obviously an elite program, much better caliber of athlete than what I was seeing at ETSU or that I was, right? So it wasn't surprising to me that when I started covering Florida State in 1998 officially, that, okay, this is a different caliber of athlete. These guys are all bigger and stronger and faster than anybody I played with or against in college, and these are all guys that, wow, you can see why they're at a place like Florida State. But it wasn't insane. I mean, there were guys. I'm talking about the freshmen that come in. I'm not talking about the seniors. When you would see the freshmen, you'd go, golly, man, that guy's put together. It didn't take long before that shifted. When you began to see just a few years later that the sport-specific year-round training and the advancements in understanding of how to work out and how to eat, how to properly utilize nutrition took hold. Because guys would come in and they looked like grown-ups. They looked like they could play now. Their body type had a density of muscle to it that you thought he could play as a freshman. And in fact, freshmen playing college football used to be reserved solely for the freaks of the world like Herschel Walker or somebody like that, where you'd go, he's a true freshman? What? Look at that guy. It's very common now, Tom, because of these advancements now, obviously, to see freshmen make an impact all over the college football landscape. But we're reaching a place I never thought we would, and this gets into that discussion about concussions and what do you do to protect players, and that's why we're having these ongoing discussions. Because if you go take a look at Kendrick Blackshear, I'm telling you, that guy looks like he could play middle linebacker in the National Football League today. Right now, that guy could. Look at the density of muscle on that guy. He is massive.
My question would be, just physiologically speaking, and I wonder what the answer could be or how it could be measured. You might have the bulk, but do you have the true density of being a 22 or 23-year-old? Meaning, if the NFL wanted to employ somebody that looked like that, could they hold up? Or has their body not allowed for that all to settle the way it needs to when you're in your mid-20s and you play the game? Like, is it almost hollow strength versus something you'd see for somebody who's an upperclassman who already has that body type? If it's the same, then it gets interesting about who should be eligible to go right to the pros.
So this has been a point of contention for a long time. In other sports, you're physically capable of going straight to the pros. You can be drafted into the major leagues and start your career in professional baseball, and you could be the majors these days very quickly. 18, 19-year-old kids make it to the majors. In the NFL, the thought was that, no, you're just never going to find a kid in all likelihood. I mean, a few freaks. Maurice Clarett challenged it, if you recall, and all of that. But there have been a few. But for the most part, I've always understood why they wanted no part of that, having an 18-year-old kid going up against a 35-year-old man who's spent his entire life eating and lifting to get to where he is at the highest level. And I still think that's probably true. I'm not sure that Blackshear, who looks the part, could be the part. But he's the closest thing I've seen in just looking at a body. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. He's a linebacker. You look at this kid.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, look at
even his calves. I mean, Jesus.
Look at the picture. It doesn't even make.
Yeah.
He's out of Duncanville High School, out of Duncanville, Texas.
It's not like, usually these kids at these ages, you see that either their upper body or their lower body is developed, but then they're very much a kid in the other half of the body. Something like that, right? Like there's always a check and a balance. I don't see one here. I don't. I agree with you.
I've never seen it. I mean,
like if I was him or his camp, I'd say put 1 year of film out there and then just wait. Because look at you. You'll be fine.
He's it's every now and again, listen, Greg Jones, I remember the day we saw Greg Jones and people thought, well, good Lord, who looks like that? There's no doubt that there are freaks out there who physically seem to be beyond their years, light years beyond what everybody else looks like oftentimes. But, man, this is a guy that I hate to prattle on like this. That picture that made the rounds on the internet yesterday, noting that this was the Alabama defender that would be terrorizing offenses in the SEC starting next year. And I thought, a linebacker? Let me click on this. There's no linebacker that's going to start as a true freshman at Alabama. The depth of talent that they have there suggests otherwise, and he may not. Who knows? Because you still have to understand scheme and understand what they're doing. And it's pretty complex at Alabama the way that they operate on defense. But I would think that just body type-wise, yeah, he could. He could do it. It's crazy.
Well, and it's one of the major questions facing college football in the next 4 or 5 years. Obviously, you see that the name, image, and likeness, the NILs, are being brought before the Supreme Court. And that question, there's already legislation being drafted in Congress right now about greater allowances for players. Carte blanche, do what you want. That's one big question. The other question is when you have somebody who looks like that, and you have a sports landscape where, the next round of the SEC contract numbers are what they are. And, when the Big Ten comes up for renewal and the Pac-12 gets its act together and you see these numbers and they look like they do and they keep growing. And you see the players and they look like they do. Yeah. And the NFL still doesn't have a minor league system to allow for these kids to be professionals, right?
Sure.
What are we doing?
Yeah, well.
Like, of what purpose is college football if these kids can profit off of their name, image, and likeness, and yet you can't pay them? Instead of them going to school. Like, this next decade is going to be insane in terms of what college football looks like by the end of it
Well,
and what it looks
and
like
the Power
today.
5 is going to pull away, and we already know that. And then
Seismic shifts to this thing are coming.
Oh, yeah. And they've already happened. In large swaths, we've seen radical shifts in attitudes and capability, right? What schools are allowed to do. The stipends exist. I mean, we're seeing this shift now.
Like, there are moments, clear moments, and they've happened a bunch in the last decade, where you're just saying, what are we doing here? Like, what are we really? I mean, it's always been kind of a sham, but now what are we doing here? This is the first time, maybe first of 4 or 5 times, where I see a player and I say, what are we doing here? Like, why can't that guy go to the league at 19? Why does it have to be 3 years?
That guy is – I'm looking at that picture. I mean, sweet Jesus. We used to – every high school player who's ever played the game knows what I'm talking about. When you watch film the week of your opponent and your coaches tell you to look after this guy or watch this guy or we're going to have to double team this guy, whoever it would be, right? And there was always an outlier. Every team had one. Every generation knows this, right? You'd watch a player, you'd be like, man, they got a 300-pound offensive lineman. I remember the first time my high school went up against an offensive line in high school, this is the 80s, that had a starting tackle that was 300 pounds and could move. It was a big deal in the 80s. Like, nobody, you never saw it, not in high school. And I remember thinking, well, what are we going to do with that guy? I mean, good Lord. And those guys existed, but I never saw anybody that played linebacker that looked like this. Nobody was 250 pounds taking people's head off looking like a grown-ass man. Whoa. You're going to get kids who are like, no thanks.
Yeah, it's dangerous for a high schooler to play against that guy.
I got no chance here. I'm going to get thrown into the stands. Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is who can and cannot play high school football. That has changed my lifetime. I knew kids that weighed 160 pounds in high school that not only played, and we were a 5A school, went on to be a 6A school, so you're playing at a high level. I know kids in my high school that were 160 pounds and not only played well. They were good players. I don't know that that's the case anymore. I don't they could die. Jeff Kemper Show 97.9 ESPN Radio. Oregon giving Mario Cristobal a lucrative new contract. I would guess that most Oregon fans think, no, what are you doing? A 6-year, $27.3 million contract for Mario Cristobal announced and unanimously approved by the University of Oregon's Board of Trustees. Oregon's facing a budget deficit. Both University President Michael Schill and Athletic Director Rob Mullins making it clear to the board that the contract would be honored using private funding. Nice. We believe strongly in Mario's track record. He's built a good foundation for success here. Cristobal's $2.7 million base salary for this season will now be $4.3 million. Cristobal's making $4.3 million per.
So we've got to get a sounder with like a demonic voice that goes Sexton and then cha-ching, cha-ching, and a Ric Flair woo. Because every year, this is his season, man.
He's 24-9 overall. He's 16-7 in the conference. That's not worth $4.23 million.
But Auburn might be calling them.
Oh, my God. You know, the best part about the Auburn stuff is this idea that Kevin Steele will be... Oh, my God. They fire Gus Malzahn, who I understand that. I hate Gus Malzahn's offense. I hate it whenever I watch Auburn football. It's trash. They haven't been innovative in years. They were back when they made the national championship game in 2013. Since then, they've fallen off a cliff. Everybody runs that offense better than they do. It's impossible to watch it. I hate it. It pisses me off. I get angry watching them try to run offense. So I, too, 5-19 is not what we need.
And why is it that Kevin Nagandi always fills in on the Auburn games?
But I would have fired him too. But when you begin to hear the names getting kicked around, Hugh Freeze, of course, because nobody ever stays in trouble. No matter what the transgression, if you're a coach, you'll find your way back 4 and 5 times. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can be guilty of some pretty heinous things, and they don't even care. I mean, hell, Liberty hired him, and we know what was going on with you off the field, and Liberty's like, come on down. And then again, we learned an awful lot about Liberty and those that started, and the pool boy. Mm-hmm. We learned all about Liberty. I like to watch. So it was all there. And I could see them. I mean, this is just rich.
Let the boy watch.
It's just rich, man. I crack up. We're supposedly watching university after university deal with millions of dollars lost in which a pandemic has wrought devastation. And that every day a new story. Fired, $21 million owed. Fired, $7 million owed. Fired, $16 million owed. You can't ever take these schools serious anymore when they talk about budget crunches and asking people to take pay cuts. And you're like, really?
You could take Jimmy Sexton seriously, though.
Yes, you can. If you're Jimmy Sexton and you're on a Zoom call, do you intentionally make it as uncomfortable as possible for everybody else on said call by entering the room naked? Because if I'm him, I would. Because what are you going to do about it? I represent everybody, and I get them paid, and they're not going to fire me. Butt naked.
That's right. I bathe in a big bowl of Cheerios before I eat breakfast. That's how I eat breakfast.
I am just sitting here. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me to put on a towel? I mean, I'm not going to put a shirt on.
Yeah, one guy who's a sellout. Hey, Jimmy, are those the honey nuts? You got it right.
Oh, man.
Where's my big spoon?
It's just amazing. So for Coach Cristobal, he said what we all think, which is, I'm really grateful to President Schill and Rob Mullins. Hey, yeah, of course you are. By the way, as an aside, I was reading a story yesterday, Tom, about the guys that started Instagram when Zuckerberg and Facebook bought out Instagram. And, of course, this is now the Federal Trade Commission is going after them as a monopoly, Facebook that is. And that stuff I got to read about to learn more about. I don't have a handle on that kind of law. But what I read about that blew me away was something that gave me pause. I kind of put the article down and thought for a second, that's got to be the greatest call of all time. The two dudes that started Instagram, Two dudes were undergrads where? Of course, Stanford. That's where they were undergrads. Everybody who invents anything at all to do with tech is at Stanford. Maybe not even graduating, but they're just there figuring out things. These two dudes, the first name for Instagram was Bourbon because one of the guys, Craig, loves bourbon. So he named the app Bourbon. It didn't take off. There were other aspects of the app besides just filters for pictures. What they figured out was because these things are walking computers, meaning the phone, that really nobody's sitting down at laptops or computers at the house anymore to post pictures. They can just do it instantaneously with their phone. So that was the whole thing, right? Oh, we'll take a picture, we'll make it look better, we'll put a filter on it. Go crazy, kids. Everybody's Ansel freaking Adams. So that's what ends up happening, right? Well, Zuckerberg sees this, and he goes, well, that's incredible. That's going to be a problem. We need to either develop something like that or buy them out, which is the greatest call you're ever going to get because he's decided that it's too much for them to build it. We're just going to buy them out. They placed a call, Zuckerberg's people, to these two freaking dudes who have started Instagram. At the time, only 10 million people were using Instagram. Relatively small amount of people were using Instagram.
In the Facebook world, that's small, yeah.
Tiny. They get a call. Zuckerberg would like to give you $1 billion for Instagram. God dog, buddy. That's a call. Now, that's a phone call.
That's how you're dead by 30, too.
That's the greatest phone call of all time. I'm 22 years old, and me and Tom are going to split $1 billion. We're going to get $500 million.
These taxes are ridiculous.
Oh. Woo! What a call that is. Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today, and a fine Redemption Thursday to you and yours. Rapid fire picks coming your way momentarily. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. You can also email us if you like. JCS at 979 ESPNRadio.com. On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're doing well. Man, I really like today. I've really enjoyed today. Have you guys gone outside today? It's that cold, dark winter day. The one where you wish you were by your fireplace, reading a book, sipping on a hot toddy. It's a good Thursday, man. I like this weather. Go home, watch football tonight? Forget about it. This is where it's at.
Man, so this week I really have allowed the homeowner experience to go to a new level.
Get that fire going after you got your chimney clean.
I got the chimney clean. Good guy. Maybe I'll tell you about him someday.
Someday.
The Christmas tree is up right next to the fire.
Nice.
You got two different sets of lighting going on.
Boom.
I've got the record player going. Listen
Forget
to some
about
vinyls.
it. There you go.
Holy cow.
Little Van Morrison on vinyl next to the Christmas tree while you're sipping on some scotch and the fireplace roars. Woo!
Fair play to you.
What you do, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I recently bought a leather chair for that room. I tweeted that picture out, intentionally being an a-hole as I sat back with my feet up and enjoyed the fireplace and the comforts, the creature comforts that a new leather recliner provides one who is relaxing before the fireplace. It's my time of year, man. Good times. I mean, every time of year has its strengths and weaknesses. One of the weaknesses, this is the time of year where don't get out and golf as much as you'd like, but everything else I love. Those cool temps, yeah.
If the air is still and it's not humid, you can play in 55-degree weather and enjoy the hell out of it. I mean, like, really, it's not a bother at all. I did that at Killarn a couple weeks ago.
No,
and it was
55
phenomenal.
is fine, but 32 is not.
Correct.
And so, we had 30s in the morning, and we'll have it again tomorrow, and that's racing to the golf course at that point. Some do. Some are not afraid. I'm not afraid. You and I could do it. It's just don't miss-hit it.
Don't thin it.
Do not thin it. Bees in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Rutgers plus 6.5 against Nebraska. Give me Rutgers. The Fighting Schianos. Boy, have they been game this year, huh? Good for them.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Every time I think about that, I think some coaches are just made for certain schools. For whatever reason, Greg Schiano loves him some Rutgers and convinces the players at Rutgers to play hard for him no matter what.
Yeah, it's like Jim Harbaugh in Michigan.
What a mess. I heard two people debating the other day in this industry about what Michigan should do. Now, I have to tell you, the pendulum has swung for me, and I think it's because we're going through it. It's moved more in the direction of I think schools need to get back to a time in which they acknowledge that coaches sometimes need 3 and 4 and 5 years to instill culture and flip a roster and get things turned around. I don't know if that's the case at Michigan. I'm not there. I'm not on the grounds covering Michigan. I don't know what the problems are. But when you get to a situation where nobody's winning at Michigan, unless we forget, Rich Rodriguez didn't do a damn thing at Michigan. And then neither did So all these guys are going into Michigan and losing. They're not winning. And they have access to the best resources. They've got a rich tradition. Everybody brings up that they've won more games than any other school in college football history. Well, they've also played longer than just about every other school in college football history. I don't really count that as much. But the point remains the same. Money, facilities, history, they're not lacking. Any which way to Sunday, they should be able to win. There's no reason for them to lose, but they keep losing. And what do we know about Harbaugh? Well, he's a red ass. He's really difficult to deal with. He's not somebody that you want to be around. He's a doofus who kicked ass at Stanford and took the 49ers to the Super Bowl in short order. So we know he can coach. I guess my point is, if I were them, I don't think I'd start over. He's one of theirs. I know
They're getting worse.
I don't understand how. He's had good recruiting classes.
Could it be that he's the type, and maybe just this is the outside looking in, but look at his personality type and who he is. And
No, he's annoying. It's tough. It wears thin.
But how hot he runs. Maybe for he himself, the capacity is gone because he's a car that's revving in fifth gear at all times.
I'll circle back to this when I finish out the wagers. I do have thoughts on this because we're thinking about coaching and changing coaches and what we do, and it's applicable to Florida State at all times these days. Seemingly the fan base is just ready to quit on everybody around every turn. And sometimes I think it's justified. Other times I think it's rash. Other times I think I just don't know what to do here. I mean, are we relegated to the long wait? Maybe. I think they are at Michigan, frankly. I don't know that you can. What are you going to do? Who are you bringing in that's guaranteeing success at Michigan right now? I mean, when Rich Rod went there, he was the hottest name in the biz. He should have never left West Virginia. He had a great thing going at West Virginia. He was perfect for West Virginia. I think there's something to the right coach at the right place. Schiano, for whatever reason, makes Rutgers hum. He did something at Rutgers that no coach in 100 years, literally, had ever done. He leaves. It's been tumultuous, to say the least. Terrible run as the Bucs coach. That situation in New England ended oddly. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, we had the promo.
Oh, yeah, it's
He found
great.
God out of nowhere.
Whenever that happens, either you committed a crime, cheated on your wife, or got heavily addicted to painkillers. Something was going on there. I don't know what happened.
Or it was bingo, all of it.
Yeah. So, but he gets to Rutgers. This is the cure. This is what I need to hear, and they love him right back. Don't know. Remember, he was on a plane to become Tennessee's next head coach when they revolted because they thought he was involved in looking the other way at Penn State to kids being raped in the shower, like Joe Paterno did. That's Joe Paterno's legacy. Not a win, but ignoring child rape. I took Rutgers plus 6.5 against Nebraska, Tom.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
I took Oregon plus 3 against Southern Cal. I'm not a believer in Southern Cal. I took Ohio State to just lampoon Northwestern. I can't watch. I get it. Fitzpatrick's a great coach. Northwestern is playing for the Big Ten title for the second time in 3 years. North freaking Western, as engineered by Jim Phillips, the head of the new ACC commissioner's position.
That's the new ACC. You're
That's
damn
the new
right
ACC
it is.
right. But Northwestern struggles to score. Northwestern struggles to move the ball forward. They play great defense. They do not play great offense. I think Northwestern is going to get hammered in that game.
It's sitting under 21 this whole week, too.
It moved to 21 today.
Oh.
I don't care. I'm giving the 21, Tom. I think
so is Ohio State.
They're going to give more than 21. Hey, newfound bounce-back status. Energized by a monumental upset over the University of Florida in which they went into Gainesville, won at the Swamp. Give me LSU plus 2.5 going against Ole Miss. Let's get it on.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
I actually think, you know what it is? Brad Johnson's kid looked good. Brad Johnson's kid looked good, man. I was happy for that kid. You know, he was committed briefly under the cloak of secrecy to Florida State, but then things went south, and Brad was not enamored with the hiring of Willie Taggart and his staff.
Yeah.
Then it looked like he was going to go to Georgia. Then it looked like, and there's been all kinds of weird things going on.
Didn't he
there.
like Miami for a period of time, too?
I don't know about that. But he ended up at LSU, and he looked good. He looks like a baller. He's chip off the old block. He played great last week.
Okay. 2.5, huh? So you're picking a winner.
You want to go ahead and you want to put it up on the board?
Man, we haven't done enough tall boys.
You
Yes,
lost the last 2 tall boys. I've seen nary a tall boy in here. Not one.
These tall boys aren't going to buy themselves, boys.
That's right, Tom Lang. Where are they?
Ooh, you came with the good stuff. Natties.
I had it. I had the Qs plus 46. They damn near upset Clemson. They were right in it in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you take Ole Miss then, huh? You got them giving me 2.5. I've got LSU plus
I've been stewing on it.
All right. Minnesota plus 12.5. Wisconsin's offense. Boy, the Big Ten just has a lot of teams that can't score. Give me Minnesota plus 12.5. And I'm taking Notre Dame over Clemson. I'm getting 10.5 in this game. I think Notre Dame could win again. It's a line of scrimmage, man. And again, even if they don't, how much better can Trevor Lawrence play than Ngumbule? I mean, or however you say his name. As Corey calls him, big old son bitch.
Yeah, that's right. The next one.
Yeah.
I just call him the next one.
Well, but he's a hoss. But, I mean, he set a record. He set a passing record.
Yeah.
I mean, is Trevor going to break
Right.
the record?
And they ran for like 30 yards in that game. They couldn't run.
No.
But Notre Dame could.
Give me Notre
Yep.
Dame plus 10.5. There you go. That's a money line looker.
Well, I don't get the brain man cold.
That's a money line looker. You know what I need to bring to the table these days, Tom? I am now, and I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm tempting the gods. I'm dancing all over their face. But I have won 4 straight 2-team teaser pleasers.
Oh, buddy.
Last week, in my personal life, I had the Bucs given a point. I teased it down, minus a 1.5. And I took, what was the other? I took the Titans.
Yeah, the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. And good God, rocking chair by the middle of the first quarter.
Yes, it was.
So that teaser pleaser came through. I just have gotten to where I have visions, folks. I just see those 2-team teaser pleasers, and I know that's the winner.
I think Derrick Henry's going to have between 1,800 and 2,000 yards against the Titans in his career before it's over.
You mean with the Titans before it's over? What?
Oh, against the Jags. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay.
Against the Jags with the Titans. Every time they play the Jags, it's 180 yards, 220 yards. Every time. Even when the Jags defense was good. Remember? That was like the final blow. It was the night we were seeing St. Paul a couple years ago
what
at
a
Janus.
good night that was, at Janus Landing in St. Petersburg.
That was the game, and Henry went nuts.
That's right. He did go nuts. We were like, good Lord, Jacksonville, what are you doing?
They're done. Man, they were.
I'll always forgive. So you know how we talked about that recruit at Alabama on the show today, the linebacker that doesn't look human? Derrick Henry looks like that recruit, right? That's what he looks like. So every time he runs crazy, even on good defenses, I'm kind of like, well, I forgive you. I mean, what are you going to do? That is a monster of a man. And he's gotten faster each year he's gotten in the league. He's been in the league. He's faster now than he was his rookie year. I don't know how it's possible. He eats well.
Yes, you do.
Chargers plus 3.5 against the Raiders. I'll take the Bills. I've been riding that Bills train for some time now. They are easy to root for. They're easy to pick every week. They're just freaking good, man.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
I'm giving 6 to the lousy Broncos. I know it's a trap, but I'm doing it.
So is that part of your teaser? You just taking the Bills straight up?
No, I'm not announcing my teaser. I've got to have the vision. The vision will hit me. The vision has not hit me yet this week. But I will find it. It will happen.
So when's the vision? Sunday morning, you're looking at the numbers and they make sense to you?
Sometime Saturday night.
How late?
Sometime Saturday night, the vision appears.
Hello, my friend, hello.
Same thing. I'm by the fireplace. I've done some contemplating. And then all of a sudden.
That was your first leg of the teaser, and then when you find your second one.
Hello, my friend, hello.
And then I thank him. I said, I thank you, 2-team teaser pleaser. I shall act upon thee. Bills minus 6.
Oh, my, it's a teaser.
I'll take Cleveland minus 4.5 against the Giants. They're starting Tom's favorite NFL quarterback. The Giants are.
Rootin' tootin' Colt McCoy.
Man, a couple weeks ago, that was bad.
Yeah, he threw for like 90 yards.
I don't think Colt's been practicing. I don't think he's practiced in like 6 years.
My other favorite, Alex, could still throw for 300. Colt.
When he's not hurt. He's a game-time decision this week,
too.
So,
dude, okay.
He gets hurt again.
He goes down before half. And it's like you've written the last chapter, the epilogue. It's great. Awesome story.
Yeah.
So they're wrapping up his ankle at halftime, just before half. And I'm like, all right, I might want to pound this game live because they can't score again.
No.
They did twice. Defensive touchdowns. I said San Francisco -3 live all day.
So Chase Young picked the ball up.
About 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
And then they scored again on defense in the second half.
I'm just so glad I was not affected by that most bizarre ending the other night where there's a safety on the last play of the game. And I'm watching that. The best part is hearing the announcers go, oh, no. Oh, well. That's meaningless in this game, but it's not meaningless. And they just are openly admitting it now. They're like, oh, goodness.
So Scott Hansen is game on this, too. Now.
Oh, absolutely he is.
I'm glad that they freed the reins, even on the NFL's channels.
It used to be Brent Musburger and nobody else.
For the Henry Ruggs touchdown against the Jets the other week, he goes, well, first of all, that's meaningful in the AFC wildcard chase, and it's also a very, meaningful play.
It was.
Very meaningful.
Half of America's betting public had Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders in a 2-team teaser. This guy was one of them,
right.
and it became part of a winning streak. Yes, it did. I couldn't believe it. I jumped off my couch. When he ran past him, I was like, oh. And I kept thinking his car had been so bad in the second half. Like, don't you miss him? I had time to think it. Don't you miss him?
5.
He actually dropped that in the bucket, though. That was a perfect throw.
Hello, my friend, hello.
Finally, give me the Bucs -6 against the Falcons. And as I wrote on the email to Matthew to post online, Flackens. Not the Falcons, but the Flackens.
Flackens.
That was a mistake. And that is it. That's it. That's all. Those are my wagers. That's Redemption Thursday. I've got an update for you on, and this hour is getting away from us a little bit. It's gotten to be a little bit too sporting-centric.
Man, it's the holidays.
It is. And I've got to tell you, I'm so happy with this next thing. You guys may remember we talked about this months ago when the season started, a weird interaction that I had. I'm going to reset that for you by playing that segment and then give you the latest update on it when we come back. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Christmas.
Shall we? One of my favorite things about this job is that when I decide to reveal to you something weird that happened in my life or tell a story about an interaction I had with a stranger or admit to you that I've got, a bet on a game and it goes sideways or whatever, a lot of you come up to me later on and you tell the story back to me. And you tell me where you were and what you were doing and how you laughed, or maybe you were with your kid, and sometimes it's a borderline inappropriate story. You're like, yeah, it was a little uneasy, but it was funny. Or you just want to know what happened. I've got a follow-up, and whenever we get new information, I like to circle back and put a ribbon on that bad boy. You guys may recall not all that long ago, I'm going to set it up now because we're going to play the segment for you. It is a rerun for those that have heard it, but you'll want to hear it again, of a strange encounter that I had one night picking up mussels for my oldest son who loves mussels from Wahoo. And I ran up there to reward him and surprise him. I ran into a stranger who wanted to talk my ear off, and at first I was annoyed. And anyhow, you're going to hear that story. There's a follow-up to it, and a lot of you have tweeted at me and emailed me and asked me, did the guy come through? Well, I have new information, which I will reveal to you on the other side of this. Here's me talking before the season. This was the day of the first NFL game. It was a Thursday night, Chiefs-Texans. First game of the year. Us just staring at the pregame show before the thing kicks off, and he starts asking me questions about the two teams, about the game itself, who I thought might win, and I don't know this guy from Adam, and this is what it sounded like. So I had a margarita, and I'm watching the highlights of or the tail end of the Safeway Open. I'm watching the golf, and all of a sudden this guy comes in, him and a friend, and there's nobody sitting around me, which is great because I went in with my mask on and made sure everything was good. But where I was sitting, there's nobody sitting near me, so I was good. So I had taken my mask off while I sip on my margarita, watch the Safeway Open. This guy comes in, sits down, but he's several seats down, and he's ordering some food to go as well. And then randomly, he turns to me and says, "You like football?" Yes, I do. I'm minding my own business. I don't know this guy from Adam. And he says, "Oh, yeah, well, me too." He's like, what do you think of the point total tonight? So this is taking a turn. It's weird. But I couldn't, and I don't want to be arrogant. But I thought, well, maybe he listens to the show or something. He must know that I like football. Like that was, it was ironic,
If I'm you and I'm asked about football followed by gambling, I'm thinking the person's a listener.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, right? I'm thinking, okay, he might be a listener.
Those are the first two questions, not hi, who are you,
what
do
you do? Yeah, none of that. It was just, do you like football? What do you think of the point total tonight? So now I'm thinking, like, have I met the person? Because we meet so many people. We're lucky enough in this job to meet so many people. I sometimes certainly forget that I've met somebody in passing, or it's easy for me to forget names because we meet so many people. And so in my head immediately is like, do I know this guy? Did I meet him somewhere before? Is he just having fun with me to figure out until I figure out who he is? Because he kind of looked familiar, but I wasn't sure. So anyhow, I said, I don't have any thoughts on the total. I don't have any thoughts on the total, right?
Shutting it down.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't have any thoughts on the total, and so I was like, I don't really have any thoughts on the total. He's like, would you, if you had to, would you bet the over or the under? I was like, well, I don't have to, and I'd steer clear from it. He goes, what would you bet on? This is getting very strange. Now I feel like, are we on the verge of being in a sting? Like, what's happening here? So I say to the guy, I go, well, if I had to bet this game, I'd take the Chiefs to win just straight up on the money line. Just take the Chiefs to win. And he goes, okay, well, that's an easy pick, though. I want to do something more interesting where you get better odds. I was like, right. Well, can you tease? And so then I said, because I'm a sucker for this, I said, all right, well, can you tease up the Texans to get over 10? Because it's at 9.5. You can tease it up and get 11, 12 points. It might be worth your while to look at that. I mean, it's an NFL football game. Shouldn't be given double-digit numbers. I might try to do something like that. So I'm trying to give out a little bit of advice, right? He goes, oh, okay. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna take the under. 53.5 seems like a lot. I'm gonna go with the under, but thanks for the advice. So it's just already awkward. Now I'm back to watching the Safeway Open, and he goes, you want to bet on something? What in the world are we doing?
Yeah, that's already awkward because he's asking your advice. You give him something. He goes, never mind. I'm going to do this. So you feel like this is a great exercise. I appreciate it. Thanks for making me walk through these hoops.
Well,
and then he advances it even more.
Oh, then he wants to bet. I said, I don't know. So I said to him, I don't know you. What do you mean? Do you want to bet? I don't know you. Yeah, but we should bet on something. What are we betting? How am I going to get it? I don't know you. What are you talking about? He goes, let's bet on something simple. Like, what? Do you want to bet on a beer or something? Like, I'll buy you a beer. I'm like, well, I'm getting food to go. I'm having this drink. I'm getting my food and I'm leaving. So, I don't know. He's like, well, let's just bet on something simple. So, okay. Now, here's where I got to be careful. I'm going to leave out some details, all right? He eventually says, let's bet. And this says something about me, admittedly. He says he wants to bet $20 on a coin flip. Now, I should not, I don't think, reveal this to everybody because I'm not proud of this. But I said, all right, I'll bet you $20 on a coin flip.
He really got to your Coen brothers essence.
Yeah.
The randomness.
The randomness.
Yeah.
I do love randomness.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'll bet you $20 on a coin flip. Okay. I will bet you $20 on a coin flip. 50-50, sure thing.
Who doesn't love a little roulette?
Let's go. So he pulls out a quarter. And I go, no, we're not using your quarter. He's like, oh, you don't trust my quarter? He goes, I'll let you call it. How can I be cheating? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just who's flipping the coin first of all? And he goes, well, we'll have the bartender do it. I said, okay. Well, then have her grab a quarter out of the drawer. Okay. So she comes over. She looks at, I wave her over. She comes over. I don't wave her over. Ma'am. She comes over. I say, okay, listen, I know this.
Hey, over here.
So I said, well, like you said, there was hardly anybody there. So I said to her, I go, hey, listen, I know this is strange. Just humor us. Pull a quarter out of the register there and flip it. And she goes, what? And I said, pull a quarter out and flip you know how to flip a coin? She goes, yeah, I can flip a coin. So that.
That's rude.
No. She knows. I said it in the right way. So she goes, okay, yeah, I can flip a coin. I said, all right, are you going to catch it or are you going to let it drop? She goes, I'm going to catch it. These are important details.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
So she says, I'm going to catch it. I go, all right, well, when you flip it, I'm going to call it because he told me to call it. She's like, what are you guys doing? Don't worry about it. Just flip it. So then she flips the coin. I yell heads. It's heads. I win $20. So I have the $20. He slides $20 over me. He goes, all right, congratulations. You got me. He gives me $20. This is all very, it's surreal even for me. This is very, very strange. So then I have $20 and I got to give the guy credit. He goes, and we're sitting here watching the Chiefs and the Texans warm up. It's still, whatever it is, an hour and a half before the game or an hour and 10 minutes before the game. And he goes, well, you can keep that $20 and I go, okay, I get it. I'm an honorable man. Double or nothing is what you're going to say? He's like, right. On a coin toss? Yeah, let's do it. Okay. What do I got to lose? Let's go. Here you go. So she comes back over. She goes, guys, I'm getting uncomfortable. I was like, well, you don't have to do it. You want somebody else to do it? And she's like, well, I'll do it. But you could tell she's nervous. Like, she doesn't like to watch two people gambling.
I've heard this story before, and I'm uncomfortable about it.
So she flips the coin. I called heads again. It's heads again. This guy's into me for $60. So over 2 coin flips, it's crazy. So I'm just steady winning money over here. He laughs about it. The next question out of his mouth, and I'm just praying for my food to come. I've won $60. This has been a profitable trip.
Right, yeah, what's next?
What do we got next? Mm-hmm. I'm wondering where this is going.
I've got a limo.
So we're sitting there, and then not even 30 seconds later goes by, and he says, what do you think about renewable energy? So we've gone from, do I like football? What do you think of the total on tonight's game? Do you want to bet on something? How about we bet on a coin flip? Double or nothing? And what do you think about renewable energy? This is the progression of the conversation. And I said, well, I'm for it. Who's not for renewable energy? He's like, right. It's a smart thing. I go, of course it is. He's like, yeah. He goes, maybe you've seen a lot of these farms that have gone to solar panels. Again, I'm getting food from a restaurant, sitting at a bar. This is with a perfect stranger. This is the conversation.
This is Coen Brothers. It's real, though. It's real.
It's real, and I'm processing it, and I'm answering, and I'm trying to be polite, and the guy is affable enough, but it's just the strangest. And I said, yeah, well, I've noticed it on I-10, and I've also seen it on 75 when I drive around the state. He goes, oh, yeah, you can find them in Georgia, too. He goes, I'm from Georgia. I said, okay. He goes, I'm staying here at this hotel, and, So then I said, oh. He goes, well, I come into town about once a month, and I service land, and I supervise clearing, and I go, for solar panels, I assume? And he goes, yes. Well, then he proceeds to tell me about how the whole deal works, about how much you get per acre if you have solar panels on your land, how much you could sell your farm for. They lease them for 20 years. Then you get your land back, so it's a win-win. And I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm thinking, well, I want to invest in land. This is amazing. So here we are. We're talking. He goes, let's make another bet. After a 10-minute conversation about renewable energy, solar panels, and farms, he then says, let's make another bet.
What percent of GDP will renewable energy be by the year 2026?
So then I said, what? Again, I don't know you. What bet are we going to make where the other has to pay? And he goes, well, I assume you have PayPal. And I said, well, I do. Sure, I do. He goes, either that or Venmo. I do. I have both. He's like, me too. And I can assure you I pay my debts. And I said, I believe you. And then he said, so let's make a bet. Don't worry, I won't bother you. He goes, again, I live in Georgia. I'm going to put your name in my phone with your number, and underneath it, I'm going to put whatever our bet is. And you'll hear from me whenever that. And I said, what's the bet? He goes, over under 11 wins for the Kansas City Chiefs. I go, I'll take the over. I like the Chiefs over 11. He goes, see, I don't. I'm going to go under. Okay. He goes, here's my name. Here's my phone number. Write in our bet for my last name. Just put in the bet. I said, okay. Strangest interaction ever. We make the bet. The bet is for a certain dollar amount. And one of us is going to have to pay the other when this thing is over. Now, I'm kind of afraid to say the rest of the story because nothing else weird happens except for I'm told that this person is wealthy. I find this out as I'm leaving, not from him, but from somebody there at the restaurant, okay, is what I find out. And what really was going on here was that this person is wealthy beyond their wildest dream, probably from renewable energy, just a guess, and they really like the action. They just get bored, and they want to test people and see what they can get away with. He asked my advice about certain places throughout town that he was going to take an Uber with, all this other stuff. But now I have a bet with a perfect stranger that comes and services land out by the airport for renewable energy purposes, and he's in my phone all while I was just picking up food. So I've got the Chiefs in the over, if you're wondering. And I said the funniest thing in the world is going to be when this season ends, one of us is going to get a text from this conversation that says, hey, pay up. It's like neither one of us is going to expect it, that it's going to happen. I set a reminder on my phone. So now I have it. When I get that reminder, that's going to be hilarious.
All of Tallahassee is waiting for the Chiefs' 12th win, or Week 17. Now we're all locked in.
I can't wait to send it to this guy.
Now, given today is a home game, a Libations Friday, and typically we would be on site, where did you send him?
To the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
That's true.
I did. I sent him to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. He said, where can I go? I said, what do you want? Do you want to be around kids? You probably don't want to be around kids. It's, I said, do you want to go somewhere where you have a little bit of space and a bunch of TVs? There's great food there. I said, go on over to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. He said, oh, okay, I will do that. He goes, where is it? I said, well, you're not driving. He said, no. He goes, I'm taking an Uber. I said, well, it's on Appalachian Parkway. It's near the Capitol. You take a left. I'm telling him all this stuff.
$24.75.
So he's like, okay, well, I'll go there. Now, here's the final kicker. I went to bed with, 7 minutes left in that game. I mean, I knew the result. I knew it was over, and I didn't have any action on the game. So there was no reason to see if we got to the over or not. Somebody got screwed by a half point. I know that. Anyhow, I went to bed. I woke up this morning. There's a text from the guy. He's like, well, there's win number one for you. Talk to you months from now, buddy. He took the time to text me again after the game ended while I was sound asleep. Should I be nervous? That was the story I told you guys at the start of the football season, the start of the NFL season. As you guys well know, Kansas City has indeed surpassed the 11-win marker. They are at 12 wins. They are 12-1. They are, in my mind, the best team in football. So some of you this week, actually at the end of last week, I started getting tweets from people who remembered the bet, remembered the story. I got emails. I actually ran into a few of you. I was Christmas shopping the other night. I ran into a guy, and he actually stopped me and said, hey, did that guy ever get back in touch with you? All right, so dude's name is Gabe, and he did. I'm not saying his last name.
I know, but more and more details. We now know where, and we now know the dude's name. So people are going to be going to this particular establishment saying, Gabe? How about a coin? Or just flip coins?
Yeah.
And see if the guy's
anybody? Yeah, well, he's not in town. He doesn't live here. And I heard from him today. Today. That's why we're telling you the story again. That's why we're replaying it. I've got new news. He's a man of his word. I was paid today. And I'll tell you something. He texted, or I went and looked him up. I had him in my phone. You heard in the story as Wahoo Bet or Kansas City Bet or whatever it was, right? But I had put his first name in. I had forgotten that. So I found it on my phone, and I thought, all right, here we go. And the last text I had was from him, the one that he sent while I was sleeping.
The one where you said, should I be nervous?
Yeah. Yeah. So I said to him today, hey, buddy, what's happening? I just sent him a text, and I said, I hope you're doing well. Here's my PayPal. Within seconds, he texted back, I knew I'd be hearing from you, Jeff. And he goes, fair enough. One question, do you have a Venmo? And I said, I do, and I sent it along. I no sooner hit send on my Venmo to him that I got a notice from Venmo of funds being deposited.
This is all hypothetical,
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
So of course, yeah. Of funds being deposited in my Venmo, and he wrote cheers, and I said, hey, something. I made a joke with him to the effect of, next time you're in town, coin flips and beers, let me know. And he said, absolutely, Merry Christmas. That was the end of it. That's it. Guy's solid, man. I knew it. I knew he'd come through.
Yeah, he struck me as somebody who wouldn't, welch on a deal for $1,000 on Clemson and Louisville. He strikes me as somebody who would pay up.
Somebody who'd pay up. Who would really almost, he was probably embarrassed I had to reach out to him. He probably went, oh, man, that's that guy. He probably felt bad because he's that kind of honorable, unlike the guy that bet me or may have on that Clemson-Louisville game all those years ago.
Right, Lamar Jackson, 2016, yeah.
Has it been almost 5 years now?
Yeah, it's been 4 football seasons, yeah. That was the year we got pasted, right? So that had to be the same year.
Still, that guy. I know it's gotten back to him. I know it has. It has to have gotten back to him. He's still in town. If I were a different kind of guy, knees. Freaking knees, man. It's not nothing. It's not $50.
Yeah, it's like a Costco-sized thing of potato chips. That's all.
Come on.
We're buying wholesale here.
Let's go, brother. Do it right. Come back. Wrap it up momentarily. Hang in. 97.9 ESPN Radio wrapping it up. We do have the Front Row Knowles on Mondays and Wednesdays.
That's correct. Nicely done. Good promo, Reed.
But tonight is a Thursday, and we've got the Scuttlebucks coming up next with yours truly.
Way to get that promo in for other days plus today. That's
I'm breaking the mold, Tom. And then the other thing we have, of course, is Thursday night football, the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And these two teams are leaking oil coming down the stretch here. The Raiders did what they did a year ago, which is fall to pieces, and Gruden's got to be beside himself. There was a window around the time that they beat the Chiefs and then also played the Chiefs again relatively close for a second time that you thought, man, the Raiders, okay, maybe this is a different team. Nope. Still the sorry-ass Raiders. Their one win in their last 4 games is a Hail Mary gift against the Jets. Otherwise, you're looking at getting pasted by Atlanta in a humiliating effort. You're seeing all kinds of problems. They don't look very good, and this is going to lead Gruden to decide to get a running start and kick Derek Carr in the cojones, even though it's not mostly Carr's fault, in my opinion. But that said, they're limping across the finish line. The Chargers, meanwhile, are obviously going to fire Anthony Lynn at the end of the season, and they're probably coach searching now and figuring out what they can do. Now, Eric Bieniemy is who I'd be calling, but I also know that a lot of people are going to be calling him.
Apparently, there are some red flags from past behavior too, some rumors and off the field stuff that might have hindered a little bit of why Bieniemy has yet to be hired. I don't know how true that is. That's certainly going to be vetted this year because there's no excuses left not to hire him if he checks all the boxes, right? Like in a good way.
I remember him as a player at Colorado. He was a very good player. That's how old I'm getting now. All these guys that become coaches, I'm like, I saw you play in college, Oh,
what I'd do if I was the Chargers would be hire that dude and go get Rondale Moore out of Purdue because he can be your Tyreek Hill type downfield threat. And you have replicated as much as you possibly can, what Kansas City brings to the table. Yeah.
I'm looking at Eric Bieniemy right now, and he's obviously put on weight from his playing days. I always like to do that. You do the cross between when he was a player at Colorado and what he's become now as a coach.
Well, if you have lunch with Andy Reid every day, it's going to happen.
It's going to be and you're 51 years old, it's going to happen. I also forgot that he was a bowling ball. I knew he was short in stature and had the ability to stay on his feet. He was like a weeble wobble, but he's 5'7", 210. That's a load. That's tough to get lower than him.
Yeah.
So he played at Colorado, was their leading rusher in 1990, all those years ago. He was third in the Heisman balloting behind BYU's Ty Detmer, and I forgot about it, Raheem Ishmael. That's right, Rocket at Notre Dame. So it was tough that year for him to win it, but Bieniemy was a good player. He's gone on to be a great coach. I don't see anything when I go through the list of he worked in college football for Colorado. Then later on, he went on to be a recruiting coordinator. He was part of their shared national championship team in 1990. Then he early on worked with the Minnesota Vikings. He went back to Colorado. Then he went to Kansas City. There just isn't anything that really pops up as being all that big of a transgression. I don't know what it would be. If you go to his Wikipedia, which is, of course, always accurate, Tom.
Yes.
If you go to his Wikipedia, there's nothing in the way of controversy. You don't see anything that says arrests or anything like that. So what could it be?
Since you brought up Wikipedia real quick, here's a free tip for the kids out there. If you got exams or you just, maybe they might have passed, but for midterms and stuff next semester, here you go. You're not supposed to use Wikipedia as a source. That's fine. That's true. Use the sources that Wikipedia cites. It's already done the work for you. There you go. That's just the free tip of the day. But it's people in the NFL community that are saying that there are things. If you dig hard enough, you'll find them. And it's Twitter stuff, but these are people who have the check marks and who have been around the circles of coaching hires and how that works. We'll find out if it's true, because if it's not, somebody's going to hire him real fast. And if it is, somebody's probably still going to hire him, but then there's going to be an article about it.
I found one article dating back to 2004 and it has to do with recruiting practices with women.
I wouldn't think that would do it.
That shouldn't do it. But it is sorted. It's women, it's alcohol, it's sex for recruits.
Oh. I thought you just meant $100 handshakes.
No, it's the Louisville special.
Don't you desecrate Billy Minotti.
It's the Louisville special. Now, listen, he was questioned. He wasn't charged with anything or anything like that. And this goes back a long, long way. I mean, this is, 16, 17 years ago. So there was a point where he was docked a month's pay for something. I don't know what that would have been. It doesn't say in this particular article. But sounds like they recruited aggressively. That's what it sounds like to me.
Might have had some hospitality going on.
Yeah, a lot of. Yep, they had their own Billy Minotti Hall. That's what they had.
Nothing. I will repudiate you any chance I get. Nothing happened in Billy Minotti Hall except what should have happened in Billy Minotti Hall.
If he goes to Los Angeles and takes over that offense, they've got weapons everywhere. Weapons that may not play tonight in the football game that we're going to watch between the Chargers and the Raiders, or that you're going to listen to right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. But he's got them. They litter the field, and he's got an up-and-coming superstar quarterback. That'd be a good hire.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been something from Schefter or Rappaport or those guys lately, but this morning it was game time decision for both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I imagine that would mean that no decision's been made yet, seeing as the game's about 2.5 hours away.
Scuttlebucks up next, followed by football, NFL football, aforementioned Chargers, Raiders. Good work, Tom. Good work, Matthew. Be well, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Redemption Thursday evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on a Live Asians Friday.